Good evening. I would like to share an essay on soul, spirit, and energy. Three layers of human experience. In everyday language, the words soul, spirit, and energy are often used interchangeably. We say someone has good energy, that their spirit is broken, or that something speaks to the soul. Yet beneath this casual overlap lies meaningful distinction. These concepts point to different layers of human experience, layers that psychology and spirituality approach from different angles, but that ultimately describe the same inner reality. Rather than competing explanations, psychology and spirituality are two lenses focused on one phenomenon: what it means to be alive, conscious, and human. Energy, movement, activation, and life in motion. Energy is the most fundamental layer. It is the easiest to sense and, in many ways, the easiest to describe. From a psychological perspective, energy refers to levels of activation in the body and mind. It shows up as alertness or fatigue, motivation or burnout, tension or relaxation. Neuroscience might explain it through hormones, neurotransmitters, or nervous system activity. When someone says they feel drained, psychology understands this as depletion, emotional, cognitive, and physiological. In spirituality, energy is understood more broadly as life force. It is not limited to measurable signals but includes subtle sensations, vitality, heaviness, flow, or blockage. Traditions speak of energy moving through the body, shaping mood, health, and perception. Whether described scientifically or spiritually, energy is neutral. It simply moves. Energy answers a simple question: what is happening right now? It is the sensation you feel when you walk into a room and immediately sense tension, warmth, excitement, or heaviness before a single word is spoken. Energy moves, but it does not choose its direction. Something else gives it meaning, and that meaning is spirit. Spirit gives us direction, purpose, and is considered the animating life force. Spirit is what animates energy. It is the force that gives movement a sense of direction. In psychology, spirit is rarely named outright, but it appears through concepts such as purpose, values, and meaning. Existential psychology, in particular, recognizes that humans are not driven by pleasure alone, but by the need for meaning. A person with strong spirit is not necessarily happy, but they are oriented. They know why they get up in the morning. They feel called towards something, even in difficulty. In spiritual traditions, spirit is often described as universal rather than personal. It is the breath of life, the animating intelligence that moves through all beings. Unlike the soul, spirit is not yours in an exclusive sense. It passes through you, it inspires, awakens, and sometimes disrupts. When someone feels compelled to speak truth, create, protect, or surrender, this is often described as spirit at work. Spirit answers the question: what is moving me? It is felt when action arises from something deeper than habit or fear, when movement has direction rather than momentum. Yet spirit alone can feel abstract or overwhelming without an individual place to land. And that place is the soul. Soul, meaning, identity, and the inner witness. The soul is the most intimate layer. It is where experience becomes personal. Modern psychology tends to avoid the word soul, replacing it with terms such as psyche, self, emotional world, or identity. Depth psychology, especially, comes closest to the soul concept by acknowledging unconscious memory, emotional truth, and symbolic meaning. In this view, the soul is not something mystical floating outside the person, but the inner landscape where experiences are felt, remembered, and integrated. In spirituality, the soul is understood as the individual essence. It carries longing, love, wants, and wisdom. Unlike spirit, which is universal, the soul is personal, individual. It is the I that experiences life. Many traditions see the soul as enduring, moving through growth, lessons, and transformation across time. The soul answers a different question than energy or spirit. Who is experiencing this? This is why a song, a scent, or a moment of silence can suddenly bring tears without explanation. The soul recognizes something before the mind understands it. How the layers work together. A helpful way to understand these concepts is not as separate entities but as interwoven layers. Energy moves, spirit gives direction, soul gives meaning. Or in another metaphor, energy is electricity, spirit is the current direction, and soul is the lamp that gives light its particular color and warmth. Psychology tends to begin from the outside in, observing behavior, emotion, cognition, and works toward understanding the inner world. Spirituality often moves from the inside out, starting with essence, meaning, and consciousness. Where psychology asks how the mind functions, spirituality asks who is living through it. The quiet truth is that both are describing the same human experience, just at different depths. Conclusion. Understanding the difference between soul, spirit, and energy allows for a richer relationship with oneself. Energy can be managed, restored, and balanced. Spirit can be nurtured through purpose and alignment. Soul can be listened to, honored, and integrated. When these layers are in dialogue rather than conflict, life feels less fragmented. Movement gains direction, direction gains meaning, and meaning becomes lived experience. Not as a theory, but as a felt human truth. The words soul, spirit, and energy belong to humanity's oldest vocabulary. They appear in poetry, prayer, therapy rooms, and casual conversation alike. We speak of low energy, strong spirit, and soul deep pain as if their meanings were obvious, yet these terms point to distinct layers of experience that psychology, spirituality, and philosophy approach in fundamentally different ways. Philosophy stands between the other two, not measuring, not worshipping, but thinking carefully about what it means to exist at all. Energy. Change, motion, becoming. In psychology, energy refers to activation, mental arousal, emotional intensity, or psychological readiness. It is the language of systems, nervous, hormonal, cognitive. When energy is low, we speak of depression or burnout. When it is high, of motivation and agitation. Spiritual traditions expand this notion into life force, energy as the subtle movement underlying all life. Here, energy is not only inside the body but around it, shaping experience before conscious thoughts arise. Philosophy, however, asks a more fundamental question. What does it mean for something to move at all? From Aristotle, energeia was not merely power but energy, change, motion, becoming. In psychology, energy refers to activation, mental arousal, emotional intensity, or psychological readiness. It is the language of systems, nervous, hormonal, cognitive. When energy is low, we speak of depression or burnout. When it is high, of motivation or agitation. Spiritual traditions expand this notion into life force, energy as the subtle movement underlying all life. However, energy is not only inside the body but around it, shaping experience before conscious thought arises. Philosophy, however, asks a more fundamental question. What does it mean for something to move at all? From Aristotle, energy, energeia, was not merely power but actualization, the movement from potential to being. A seed contains the possibility of a tree, but only through energy does that possibility become real. Later, philosophers saw energy not as substance, but as process. Philosophically, energy is becoming. Energy answers the question, what is happening? It is the constant change that makes existence dynamic rather than static. Spirit, reason, meaning, and the universal order. Psychology speaks of spirit cautiously. When it does, it refers to purpose, values, and the sense that life is worth engaging with. Spirit shows itself when a person perseveres despite suffering, guided by meaning rather than comfort. In spirituality, spirit is universal. It is the animating breath, the intelligence that flows through all things. It is not owned, only participated in. Philosophy again reframes the question. For thinkers like Hegel, spirit, Geist, was the unfolding of consciousness through history. Spirit was not a ghostly entity, but the movement of reason, culture, and self-awareness coming to know itself over time. In ancient Stoicism, spirit was logos, the rational principle ordering the cosmos. To live according to spirit meant aligning one's life with reason and nature. Philosophically, spirit is orientation. Spirit answers the question, what gives direction to movement? It is not motion itself, but the intelligence that shapes motion into meaning. Soul, identity, experience, and inner depth. Psychology replaces the word soul with psyche, the inner world of emotion, memory, and identity. Depth psychology recognizes that humans are shaped by unconscious forces, symbolic meaning, and inner narratives that cannot be reduced to behavior alone. Spiritual traditions speak of the soul as the individual essence, the seat of love, suffering, longing, and wisdom. It is personal, intimate, and deeply subjective. Philosophy has wrestled with the soul from its beginnings. Plato saw the soul as the seat of truth and moral insight, while Aristotle viewed it as the organizing principle of life itself. Much later, Descartes split the soul from the body entirely, shaping centuries of mind-body debate. In modern philosophy, thinkers like Kierkegaard returned the soul to lived experience. For him, the soul was not an object to be defined, but a tension between finitude and infinity, despair and faith, choice and responsibility. Philosophically, the soul is subjectivity. Soul answers the question, who is living this life? Philosophy as the bridge. Psychology asks how the mind works. Spirituality asks why life exists. Philosophy asks what it means to ask these questions at all. Where psychology treats energy as regulation, philosophy sees becoming. Where spirituality speaks of spirit as divine breath, philosophy understands orientation, reason, and coherence. Where psychology maps the psyche and spirituality honors the soul, philosophy interrogates identity itself. Rather than offering certainty, philosophy teaches humility. It reminds us that soul, spirit, and energy are not objects to be processed, but perspectives through which existence becomes intelligible. Conclusion. Soul, spirit, and energy are not competing explanations of human life. They are layers of one experience described in different languages. Energy is movement, spirit is direction, soul is meaning. Philosophy does not replace psychology or spirituality, it holds them in dialogue. It asks us not only to feel and believe, but understand that it means to feel and believe, what it means to feel and believe at all. And in that space of inquiry, something quietly human emerges. Not a final answer, but a deeper way of living and understanding the question. So, dear listeners, thanks for being my audience. I hope you learned something or remembered something that runs deep in your human earth experience, and that you stay connected to yourselves, and that you gain strength every day to move your energy in the direction that you want and you desire. And so be it. Good night.